Hello and welcome to Roots from LNER. I'm Clara Amfo. Today on the show, Maisie Adam.
All my photos were just of hotel room doors so that I can remember which room I'm in, because just night after night after night you're in a different one. The worst station, just because of the sheer fear that it gives me, is Edinburgh Waverley, because I'm only ever there for the start of the Edinburgh Fringe. People come to a tour show, be like, oh, it's so good, we're coming to see you again. Do you know that it's going to be the same show? I'm not going to come with another hour and a half of brand new 3 weeks later, hun.
Get credit when you join LNER Perks. Visit lner.co.uk/perks. Welcome to Roots from LNER. I'm Clara Amfo, and on this episode, I am delighted to welcome award-winning comedian, podcaster, sport enthusiast, professional funny gal, Maisie Adam. Welcome
Hello,
to
mate.
Roots with LNER.
Thank you for having me.
Maisie, I'm so delighted to have you on here. So talk to me about where you're from on our LNER route.
Okay. So I'm from Harrogate, which is in North Yorkshire. In LNER terms, that means you're taking the train from King's Cross up to Leeds or York, but usually Leeds. Then you go across from Leeds to Harrogate. On a train going to York or Knaresborough, doesn't make a difference.
Oh, she's well versed.
I'm very well versed. Can you tell how many trains comedians take?
A lot.
Oh my Lord! I think I spend sort of 80% of my life on a train, I reckon. But yeah, Harrogate, a really lovely place to grow up. Really, like, a very beautiful little town. Quite close enough to Leeds that it never felt sort of stifling. Like you could go, because it's a bubble. It's a bubble with Harrogate. Yeah, we'd often like just hop on the train to Leeds for a day out, and then as we got older, a night out. It was good.
So when you say we, who's in that gang?
My school friends, and we're still all like just as tight, and they are my little crew. And they still like come to all my shows and everything. Like, they're the people that you dread seeing in the front row, because they know everything. They know all the deepest, darkest secrets. So yeah, there's like quite a big gang of us. We met up recently at Harrogate at Christmas, and it's mad because like a few of us have got married this year. But like, it's that weird time where like a few of us have got married, but also 3 months ago we all went to the darts together in Amsterdam, and then this was our next.
Is Luke Littler shaking?
Honestly, literally, like, what a legend. But yeah, we went to go see Luke Littler, and yeah, we were all catching up, and then like one of the couples from our group is they just announced at Christmas, like, yeah, we're pregnant, and I was like, this is such a weird transitional moment of our lives, because we're going to the darts for 3 days. You can imagine what what you get up to with that, and then you come back for another catch up, and people are starting families. It's a weird one. But I've been friends with these guys since we were about 11 years old. It's
so
really
what
cute.
was 11-year-old Maisie doing, like running around Harrogate?
Oh, I mean, I really was running as well. I used to do cross country, which I was never into running, Clara, but I was good at it. I was like Forrest Gump. Right?
And you just kept on.
Just kept on running. So like, you used to have to do cross country at school. And I remember when I went to high school, St Aidan's, we had to do the cross country, and it was the longest any of us had ever ran. And I got back, and the PE teacher handed me this like little piece of paper that it had all of our positions on it. It had a number 1 on, and I remember being like, "Oh, great, I've won!" And then immediately was like, "Oh God, no." Because then they were like, right, you're on the cross-country team. You need to be up at 6 a.m. on Saturday. We've got a race in Skipton. So then for like, I think I did it for like 2 years. And then I think I just had to say to like my mum and dad, like, this isn't it. This isn't it. I love football. I still play it. In fact, when I sat down, you might have noticed I was a little bit tense.
Do you need a sports massage, Bab?
I need to get one of them Theraguns, you know what I mean? I need to get one of those.
Magical.
Really?
Magical.
Right, I need to get one. I did Soccer Aid and they all had them. And I was like, oh my God, that's a life changer. So, no, I love football, but I've always hated running. We were chatting before we started this about the London Marathon. Hate it. But yeah, year 7, Maisie, was just keen to impress, keen to please. So was doing cross country because I'd been asked to do it, not because I had any
She didn't know
interest.
boundaries.
No,
Bless her.
exactly. Didn't set boundaries with the PE department.
I mean, to be fair, again, you were only literally what, like,
Yeah,
like
11
years old.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
fair.
But yeah, really, I was really lucky. I was, the school that I went to was really, it cultivated nice, like good friendships and like good kids. Really, like I was always, I was happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess that feeds into what obviously you do now. You're a stand-up comedian, and a lot of obviously comedy is about observing life.
Yeah.
And I guess explaining it back to people in your way.
Yes,
Like, as a comedy enjoyer, that's how I would perceive
totally.
it.
Yeah.
So when along, I guess, during a run, did you realise, hang on a minute, I'm actually quite funny. Were you the joker in your group?
Oh,
Were you quite introverted?
Yeah. No, God, no. I think I've always been keen for good stories. Like my family are good storytellers. That's something that I feel very grateful to have grown up around. Is I'm from a very big family, sort of quite loud family, and my mum is she can hold court at a table and she can really tell a good story.
Does she love the goss?
Oh, she loves it. She loves it so much. If I see her call sometimes, if I've got less than 10 minutes, I have to ignore it because you can't chat to Jill for 2 minutes.
Right.
It's gonna be at least a half hour. But I really quite viscerally remember watching her tell stories, and her timing and her delivery would make, even if it was a story that I already knew and was there for, she made it very, very exciting. And I remember like hoping that I could tell a story as well as that. And I liked that as a kid. I liked it if I were, in the canteen at school, if I was telling something, I could hear everybody, I could feel everybody's energy kind of like listening and what happened next. And I think it's those sorts of seeds that plant, I think, for stand-up, because you like it is attention. It is a very vacuous job, this. Nobody's doing it because they're,
for the art, darling.
No. At the end of the day, I like being the centre of attention. I like people listening, but I like that pressure to make sure that what you have to say is good.
But also, it is like, not to be too woo-woo about it, but it is a gift to make people laugh, and laughter's healing, man.
Yeah, I mean, I loved comedy as a kid. I really, really, really loved watching a comedian make an entire room of people absolutely crease. Like, and I can remember going to see any comedian that was ever touring and not many people came to Harrogate, but
yeah,
a lot of the time it was Leeds.
Where would you go to get your comedy fix in your area?
Leeds, right, a lot of the time. And it was the same, like with music as well growing up, nobody really came to Harrogate, so it was always going into Leeds for shows, be it comedy, theatre, music. I was always absorbing all of that because I was quite a stagey kid, so I liked going to see performance, whatever that performance was. But yeah, comedy was always the one that really impressed me and made me want to be like, that's what I would want to do. That's what I want to. I'd go and see like a musical and be like, that was great, but I had no desire to emulate it.
No jazz hands.
Well, first of all, if you've seen how I'm walking after a day of football, Clara, jazz hands is not on the on the itinerary. But yeah, comedy was always something that I would watch and be like, that's a really cool thing to be able to do, because it's doing that thing of holding court at a table, but on a bigger scale. And it's your job. You're not just the person with the fun stories. You're the person like with their own show of it. Yeah.
Were you like, I'm sure you've seen like the classic Eddie Murphy stand-up, like in Raw, I think it's Raw, Delirious, one of them, when they do a flashback to like Little Him,
yeah,
and he's in his house holding court, like telling rude jokes to all the adults.
Yeah.
So would you see those shows then come back and be like, right,
honestly,
this is the Maisie show.
This is it. And I remember like taking bits from different comedians, as in like say with Lee Evans, I remember I got his DVD for Christmas and I would just watch it over and over because it taught me so much about like your physicality is just as much of the act or just as much of the storytelling as the actual words. There's a way you can be funny before you've even opened your mouth, and I think it was definitely a lot of that. And Victoria Wood, my mum and dad were huge Victoria Wood fans, and I used to watch her sort of stage presence, especially because like a lot of that was from like the 80s with rooms of men as well that, you know.
He probably hated her.
Yeah, you'd think that might have been a really hard audience, and she's there with them in the palm of her hand. And I was like, okay, so how's she done that? How's she managed to make those group of middle-aged men be laughing about her perimenopause? How does that happen? So yeah, I could just study it, but I was watching it, but I was studying it.
Yeah,
really. Yeah,
taking notes.
Yeah,
and you come from a big old family, don't you?
Yeah.
So what's the size of a typical Adams gathering?
Well, so
and
just
extended.
we've just done Christmas, and I think there was 22 of us there, and there was more back in the day, but now obviously, as I say, we're at that time where people are going over to other partners, or some people have had kids, so they want to keep over in like Manchester, like my cousin. So I think it was 22 of us this year, which is mad because I'm only one of two. It's only me and my little brother, so we don't even make up a huge part of it. But Christmas, I think if you had like sort of fly on the wall documentary of Christmas at our house, you'd see how that maybe cultivates somebody you just want. Maybe that's why I've gone into stand up, is it's the only time I get to speak, because it's a loud family.
I get it. I get it. No, it's your you time.
Yeah.
It's your self-care.
Exactly.
Doing stand-up. So with your family, like, were you a big holiday family? Were you like about staycations? Were you that family who were able to go abroad like once a year? Like, what was the vibe?
We every single summer we holidayed in Blackpool. This was our thing. So apparently it was my grandpa who really liked it. And one thing about like our extended family, a huge trait is like routine. You do one thing, you like it, that's what you're doing every time. Now, you know, if my mum gets a jumper from a nice shop, she's then just shopping there for the next 5 years or whatever. So Blackpool, I think they had like one good holiday there, and then it was just every year. I mean, I can't remember a year where we weren't going. I was sort of born into it. But yeah, we'd go for a week in August every single year, and then sometimes a weekend in October with the illuminations.
Those lights.
Oh, those lights.
I've only been once, and I was just like, okay, all right.
Yeah, it's
all right. I get the hype.
This is it, and I think like I know Blackpool can have a reputation with some people now that maybe isn't quite so positive, but when you're a kid and what the dream of what you'd want from a holiday is things like bright lights, donuts and chips all the time, and big scary rides
and lots of sugar.
Yeah, sugar, and you know, a pier. We'd go onto the piers on the evening after dinner, and it just felt really. I mean, you know, you could have offered me that or the Maldives, and I'd have taken that every single. Yeah. I would, because it was fantastic, and I've got such fond memories of the entire week. Like, even just driving to Blackpool, we'd all be playing this game of who could spot the tower first, and then coming into the hotel. We stayed in this same hotel. And I can remember the excitement of like pulling up into the car park, wondering which cousins were there already, and sort of, you know, like running ahead into the hotel to go into the lobby and see who was sat there already. And it was just, yeah, really, 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 really fond memories.
Do you know what? As you share that story, I'm smiling because I just totally forgot about that amazing feeling of seeing your favourite cousins.
Yes, this is it.
For like half the year.
You don't see them. You don't see him for like 6 months, and then you walk in and it's straight into like where you pick up where you left off.
Yeah.
No, it was always so good, and we'd go on the rides till we were basically sick. I could have stayed there. I mean, I can remember my mum pointing out to me not so long ago, she'd found like one of those things you do at school where it's like, when I grow up, I want this. And I'd written that I wanted to move to Blackpool with my best friend, Helen, because I just thought that would be like the dream. The dream would be to move to Blackpool with your best friend.
You can still do it, though.
Yeah, Helen. I mean, I haven't seen Helen since I was like 10.
Helen, where are you?
Yeah, Helen Matthews. If you're out there, do you still want to move to Blackpool? But I loved it. I loved it.
It is magical. Side note, got to ask, when you were there, were you ever privy to any of the ballroom dancing scene?
No. So like, I only ever knew Blackpool as the Pleasure Beach, the piers, roller skating up the promenade to the Central Pier in the day. And then like, as I got older, and especially like getting into Strictly, you're suddenly like, oh, there's the whole like ballroom dancing thing, and it's like the capital, innit?
Yeah.
Of ballroom dancing.
People come from literally all over the
from
world.
That springy floor.
Yeah. They do. They love it. I mean, I'm just not to pressure, but not to that thing like what happened with you with the marathon, but strictly. Would you ever do that?
My posture, I mean, I keep catching myself in your camera there. My posture is so bad. I'm like a hunchback of Notre Dame. And then I'm not flexible at all, Clara.
Listen, Johannes, he'd get you.
Honestly.
He'd sort you right out. I'm just saying. I'm just putting it out there.
Had you done much dancing before you did it?
I like to dance,
yeah,
but I hadn't danced. But I had a great time. But I didn't get to go to Blackpool because we did ours in lockdown.
Yeah.
So we had a sort of like fake Blackpool week.
Oh yeah,
where they kind of did like illuminations like in the studio.
That was a good year. That.
But a vintage year. I mean, everyone thinks that year's the best.
No.
We had
you
a
and
good time.
That was a good little.
Oh, that's my homie for life. Shout out to Elliot.
That was a good little thing.
Right, Maisie, I'm sure you played a lot of games when you were away with your cousins. Now I want to play a game with you. It is National Treasure Top Trumps.
Okay.
I haven't played Top Trumps in a minute, actually.
No.
But basically, it's just a thing of who you think's better than who.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
So, shuffle your cards around. And we basically have to decide. Oh, I've just seen a comedic actress.
These are some big national treasure. Oh!
National Treasure Top Trumps.
Okay, I know who I'm going with.
Okay.
I've met this person.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go for someone who I think you're a fan of. So they might trump your person. But let's see. Right, who you got?
I've got Sir Trevor McDonald.
Oh. I mean, yeah, he's pretty great.
He's so cool.
Such an icon. I've got Julie Walters.
Oh my God, really?
Well, exactly. Because you mentioned you're a Victoria Wood fan. And obviously, like, they were best.
That is really good, actually.
Talk to me about Trevor. How do you mean?
I met him on fantasy football. Yeah, and I was just on there, just having a little chat about, and they asked me to like say what one of my favourite things about the World Cup, and my like unpopular opinion was that the Vuvuzelas at the South African World Cup were actually really good. Loads of people got annoyed with them.
Love
Vuvuzelas. Right. So then they were like, oh, let's see. And before, when like your life is just sort of happening in front of you, I just found myself on a sofa playing the Vuvuzela with Trevor McDonald. Like, me and him were both just blowing away on these Vuvuzelas, and I got really into it. And then he did just sort of go, he went, I think that's enough now.
Do you know what?
And when Trevor McDonald tells you to stop playing the Vuvuzela, you stop playing the Vuvuzela.
That it's giving headmaster.
Yeah.
When a kid's had too much fizzy drink.
100%. I felt like that kid. It was kind and it was polite, but it was very much, I think that's enough now.
I would have died, but also been like, actually, yes. You know what? Make me feel like an idiot.
Yeah.
It's what I deserve.
He was very graceful. He was a really nice bloke. But like, when you get around, I mean, you must have had this so many times. Like when you get around those people who you're just conscious of what a legacy they've got, like how long they've been in the game as well. He was, and he was so smart.
Oh, he. As a whippet, that one. Like, pew, pew, pew.
Yeah, but also like his suits were like unreal. He was dressed so, it's fantasy football. You just sort of turn up a bit casual. He was there full on pinstripes.
Oh yeah, ready to read the news.
Yeah.
Just in case.
Exactly.
Always on job. But the question is, in a game of National Treasures Top Trumps, does he beat Dame Julie Walters?
Oh, she's a dame.
She
We've
sure
got
is.
A dame and a sir.
Oh God, yes. In the legacy and impact score. What have you got for Trevor?
70.
Damn.
Really?
62?
62.
For Dame Julie.
62.
I'm thinking, but like Billy Elliot.
I know, I think she's been done dirty there.
Do you know what I mean?
62.
Okay, for creativity, what have you got?
Creativity, 18.
Yeah, I got 23.
Yeah, I guess he is just reading the auto cue.
Do you know what I mean? She's making characters.
Yeah, he's not ad-libbing the news.
Exactly, exactly. Determination/dedication.
45.
43.
Do you know, not that I've thought about it either, Clara, but if I were to do Strictly, on movie week, I would do, Julie Walters, when her and Billy Elliot learn to We Love to Boogie.
Yes.
That's what I'd do. But as I say, not that I've given it any thought whatsoever.
Of course not.
No.
Not thought about who your partner would be.
No.
Any of your song choices.
Have I looked up the height of all of them? Absolutely not.
I mean, you're a Johannes
It's Johannes. It's Johannes or Kaya.
Yeah. That's true, actually. That's true. Oh my God, I'm really fixated on that now. That's such perfect song selection.
Isn't it good? The broom. Yeah.
Oh my God, and you in some jazz shoes and some jogging bottoms.
Exactly. Exactly.
Maisie, we need to make this happen. Let me holler at the producers. Okay. Oh my God, one more round of top
All right,
trumps?
okay.
Okay.
So I can pick any of them.
Anyone.
You see, when I used to play top trumps, you had to go,
Go on.
I've got. When I used to play top trumps, though, you just had to go with who was at the top. But here we go.
We're remixing it for this podcast.
I've got another dame.
Go on. I've got a sir.
Have you?
I sure do.
Okay, I've got Dame Vivienne Westwood.
Don't, because you know I'm a Westwood gal.
I know.
I've got Sir David Attenborough.
Oh, you can't pull out Attenborough, Clara. No one's beating him.
I mean, well, let's see.
No.
Okay. Legacy and impact. What you got for Viv?
92.
I got a 98.
What's David Attenborough got on creativity?
21.
Really?
What's she got?
25.
Oh no!
But I think Vivienne Westwood to be 4 points ahead, just 4 ahead of David Attenborough.
She needs to be a good 50. Like, love
think
Sir
of
David.
what she's created.
Oh my God! Like
wise.
blueprint, like corsetry like no other. Incredible platform shoes. Like still got a punk aesthetic. Like, may she rest in peace.
Blue Planet.
Oh, yeah, do you know what I mean?
Blue Planet. It beats platform shoes.
No,
let's
it
be
does.
honest.
It does. I mean, I'm like, would I rather a great platform shoe or like to see a whale like just living its best life? And to us, I couldn't really decide. Okay, we'll put these down for now because I feel like this could get really tense. Back to you. Away from the critique of modern day celebrity. Right, okay. Football. So you did mention, look, you're a big sports lover, a begrudged runner, but football is your passion. So what was your relationship like to the game? How did it start as a kid?
Again, it's with the family. It's I think if you've grown up round football, it's really hard to then leave it. Like it's sort of so ingrained.
Like Scientology.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Once you've been recruited, it's really hard to leave. But no, my whole family are Leeds, and I think I've really clear memory in my head of we used to live on Leeds Road, which is like one of the big main roads in Harrogate, and I have this very clear memory of sitting on my grandpa's knee as he was watching a football game, and he was telling me the rules of the game. He was like, so we want the team in white to score this side and the team in red are trying to score that. And it was so and it was so simple to follow. It was that thing of like you asked then the national treasure, it's mass appeal, and football has a mass appeal because you can enjoy it from such a young age. It's easy to get. And then I'd go to games with my grandpa, with my uncle, to Ellen Road. Leeds United is a team that's had quite a complex history. It's had real highs and then mainly in my lifetime, very, very big lows, really like mismanaged and no money and going into administration. So it's been quite an uphill journey. Like it sort of started, when I first got into it, we were doing well, and then it's just been like down and down and down, and now we're sort of coming back up. And around that time as well, when it gets really hard to stick by your team, I also fell a little bit out of love with the vibes sometimes at a game. I think Ellen Road is a very boisterous atmosphere. It's a very spicy atmosphere. And I don't think I'm the first person to say this, but the men's game specifically has sometimes a real toxicity to it in its following and in its atmosphere at games. And I remember that feeling quite a double-edged sword or I don't know what the word is, but like a predicament, I guess, as a fan, because I really loved this team and I really loved this game. But as you grow up and you start to, again, there's a blissful ignorance to being a kid because you don't know what, these chants are about. You don't know what these words mean, or you don't clock that everybody there is a bloke. You don't clock that you're the only girl. I didn't clock those up, but as I was growing up, it really started to feel quite a different space. And then it was around this time that it was the 2015 Women's World Cup, and I was at university in Southend-on-Sea, of a university hotspot.
We love.
And it was the first time that I'd seen women's football on the main terrestrial channels. And this was a team with Jill Scott, Kaz Carney, Alex Scott, Eni Aluko. It was, Casey Stowe. It was a really, really good team. And I can remember seeing everything I loved about the game, but also none of the stuff I didn't like about the crowds and the atmosphere. And it was held in Canada, I think. And then I was so excited to sort of find my love of football again as a punter, and I found that really did with the Women's World Cup. I moved to Brighton, started following Brighton women, and then the Euros happened, where there was 2 games played in Brighton, that quarter-final against Spain, and also when we beat Norway 8-0, which is still in my mind and in my heart. And it's so lovely, Clara, to finally find that space in football where it's all the best elements and none of the bad ones. Because there's sometimes this misconception, I think, with women's football, that it's loads of mums going with their little girls and it's, soft and it's overly kind, I guess. But it's still got all of that tenacity. It's still got all of that, let's not forget, these are world-class athletes. So there's die-hard fan culture, but there's just none of the stuff that can make people feel like an outsider or unwelcome or self-conscious at the games. I remember going to the Amex and there was, big geezer dads with their sons there, but it was just nice. It was a really nice space. So, and I still love going to Ellen Road, don't get me wrong, but it's nice now that I feel that football is not one-dimensional. There's different types of games you can go to.
Yeah. And even as you were talking and you mentioned like those players like Jill, like Alex, like Ennie, you're mentioning them in a 2015 context, but it's really interesting now that in 2025, even if you're a super casual football fan, you will know who those women are.
Yeah.
They're just part of the culture now, where I think it was so much more niche.
Yes, definitely.
10 years ago, and it's been really interesting to see that shift. And I'm not even a massive football fan, but I'm a fan of. I think I've always said this. I'm a fan of football via pop culture. That's how I understand it and enjoy it. I don't necessarily watch the games, but I love seeing like the cultural things changing and like what it does for like wider society.
Yeah, and I think that generate. Speaking about that team, it's great now that they're all on our radars, mainly as pundits. Or sort of media personalities with what Jill's gone on to do and with Alex as well. But and I think I was at an awards do the other day where Karen was up for Pundit of the Year, and it's so great that they're there. But they should have been on our radars as footballers in the same way that Lampard and Rooney and all of those players when we were growing up. My sort of perception of football was those blokes. So I wish that we'd have had, Kelly Smith growing up. That I wish that name had been plastered everywhere like Beckham's was,
Yeah, for sure.
She's up there.
For sure. And look, you get to be in the same room with these people now.
Oh my God.
Being a professional
it is hard,
comedian.
Clara. Like when you meet sports stars that it's like, I do get like that with comedians, but you tend to sort of meet comics that you've grown up watching, you might meet like in a green room backstage and you're concentrating about it doesn't feel, I do sort of go a bit, oh, hi, you're right, yeah. But ultimately, you've still got to go on and do your gig. Whereas like when you meet your sports star heroes, there's like I don't know, like they have this sort of gravitas, I think, sports people, where if you've grown up loving the sport, they represent so much more than just kicking a ball around. They represent an era for you. They represent a kind of, a culture of like trying to get their shirt from the store in time. It was like, I really try and keep my cool. I was at an awards do and I met Leah Williamson.
Oh,
and,
I love her.
She's so great. But I went up to her and I was like, oh, hi, I don't think we've met, but just want to say, really big fan. And she went, yeah, you've got the football podcast. And literally, I could feel my heart going like twice as fast at that point. And I said, oh yeah, I think you've met my co-host Suze. And I hope she doesn't mind me saying this, Susie. But so she went, yeah, I've met your co-host Susie. You're playing it a lot cooler than she did.
Is this Darling Ruffle?
This is Darling Ruffle. So I literally was straight on the voice memo to Suze going, what the hell did you do when you met Leah Williamson? Because it is living rent-free in her mind.
That's hilarious.
She's so
I'm
cool.
like, I don't know what's going on here, but like she's
cool.
got all of it. I think I just want to steal her outfits.
Yeah.
I think that's
she's
it.
really, really cool. Really cool.
Now, I mean, you mentioned like, I guess when you meet people, it's quite overwhelming because I guess also doing comedy, it's quite a solitary
Yeah.
It's quite a solitary job, isn't it? Because even though you're out there like making thousands of people like laugh, you are on your own a lot.
Yeah.
So talk to me about traveling like on your ones. I guess being your own tour manager /
Do you know what? So I've just done the first leg of my tour. It finished just before Christmas, and I went to like post on my Instagram like, oh, what a great couple months. It's been really, really fun. And I went to go and like do an Instagram dump of my photos. All my photos were just of hotel room doors, so that I can remember which room I'm in, because just night after night after night you're in a different one. So you come back full of adrenaline after playing this gig, and you get back to the hotel and you're like, am I 431 or was I 276? No, that was 276 last night. So my camera, it was so depressing, was just Premier Inn rooms, just all of that. It was I know. And I was like, everyone's like, oh, what's it like touring? I think thinking it's sort of, slightly rock and roll. It's a lot of Premier Inns, and it's a lot. I think I've watched every episode of Family Guy there is, because it's the only thing. Family Guy and Naked Attraction. It's like the only entertaining things on 11 p.m. onwards. Do you know what I mean?
I love Naked Attraction.
I've seen so many bums.
Oh my God,
so many bums.
Anatomies. But you know what? I always say I truly love how inclusive and lovely that show is.
Yeah.
Like they don't make anyone feel, even if people are judging each other's body parts, they really include like everyone, which I think is really lovely.
My husband, he used to work in this cocktail bar, and the doorman had been on Naked Attraction, and there used to be girls, like when he was like, right, can I see your ID to let you in? They'd be like, have you been on Naked Attraction? They'd clock him. Can you imagine being clocked from Naked Attraction?
I'd probably want to die, but then it depends what he wants out of it.
Well, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm sure he's had many a date from it.
Depends what they remember as well.
Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? So like when you are doing these journeys like by yourself and in these like very fancy hotels, is that what you do? Is that where you do your best thinking, like on the train?
Yeah. I don't. A lot of comedians, they try and do like writing days. They'll like take themselves off to these cafes around London, and they'll really try and sort of iron out a whole routine from it. I can't do that. It just has to come to me. Sometimes 9 times out of 10, because I'm always on a train. It is when I'm traveling, I'll just suddenly have an idea, and it's the scramble for the bag before because my mind will just suddenly go somewhere else. The amount of times, Clara, I've thought, oh, there could be something in that. Remember that? And then, I get home that night and I'm like, what? No. So my notes app on my phone is an absolute bonfire of brilliant ideas and really bad ones. Sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night and write on my notes app a little idea, wake up the next morning, read it back, and I'm like, yep, that was should have just stayed asleep actually, Maze. But a lot of the time it does come to me on a train, and I do a lot of writing. On the way to gigs, on the way back, especially going. It's interesting. We were talking about appraisals, and you were saying in radio.
We have what's called a snoop. So your big boss of a radio station will listen back to like a specifically selected part of your show and be like, yeah, you didn't say that right, or maybe you could have done that a bit quicker, or da-da-da-da, and it's
you see, that's my worst nightmare, because it's in front of somebody. Whereas I will listen back to a gig on the way home, and I'll be doing that. I'll be like, oh, that punchline's got to come quicker, or why don't I say this word instead of that next time, or you need to slow it down with it. I mean, that's a thing that I get all the time when I'm watching myself back, is I'm speaking at 10 to the dozen all the time.
Big same.
Well, yeah, you're just trying to like hold the energy.
Yeah.
You don't want to let the momentum go. But sometimes you watch yourself back and you're like, babe, they can't hear a word. They can't hear a word of what you're saying, because you're just trying to get to the punchline.
In radio, they call it get to the funny faster.
Get to the funny faster.
Oh, my producer's laughing because she knows it's true. Anyone who's worked in any radio station will know that it's a catchphrase, like get to the funny faster.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah.
What, from producers?
Yeah.
Really? Get to the funny
Not
faster.
all. Okay, so what is your ideal train journey and your favourite station at this point in your tour life? Because you're in the middle of tour. Now, the reason why we say the word appraisal is because that is the name of Maisie's show. 2025, it's a brand new year. You are literally in the middle of your appraisal. Is any station taking your fancy more than others?
A good one. A good station. A good station. Do you know what I do love Leeds Station. It is a hub of activity. You see everything reflective of the UK at Leeds Station, right? Because whatever time of day you turn up, that pub is full. The pub is always full at Leeds Station. A great array of shops, but like there's always, because I used to gig in Leeds and then get the train back to Panel, which is the village that I'm from, and there's so many. This is such a. I'm bordering on partridge here because I'm about to start ranting about what stations don't have in terms of like.
Speak your truth. It's
Basically,
it's
there's
a
a
safe
lot
space.
of stations that they don't account for people taking the trains and needing some food after like 10 p.m. So I've done a lot of gigs and then been starving, thinking I'll just get something for the train. And those WH Smiths are closing at 8. It's not the one. Leeds, you can have a Pret, you can have a McDonald's,
cheeky Leon.
you can have a Leon, a Subway. Oh, they've got those like unreal cake stands in the middle. And also, if you've got half an hour to wait for your train, you can just sit and watch whatever is happening in that Wetherspoons, because there'll be some good material in there.
I was going to say, like, I mean, obviously you've got your fan base, you're selling out venues up and down the country. When people see you out and about, do you think that they're aware that you might be like clocking them, like making notes?
Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes I have to really like go incognito and really try and make out like I'm looking elsewhere. Summer's the best for it because you can wear your sunglasses and you can be looking over here. But I'm making notes. I'm making notes for sure. The worst station for me, immediately, when you asked that question, I was like, I can't think of a best one immediately. But the worst station, just because of the sheer fear that it gives me, is Edinburgh Waverley, because I'm only ever there for the start of the Edinburgh Fringe. And that journey from King's Cross up to Edinburgh is like 6 carriages of just comedians, all... Yeah, it's all comedians. They're all really nervous about their show. They're all side-eyeing each other. There's a lot of like, oh, have a great run, no, I'll defo come and see your show. And it's really fake. I would quite happily sit in the loo all the way to Edinburgh on that journey.
Oh God, because I can only imagine it's that thing of like, like when you're, I don't know, doing like your shopping in your local supermarket and you bump into someone who like, there's no beef and it's fine, but you're just sort of like, I don't have the energy to chat to you.
And it's a long old journey, London to
6-7 hours?
Yeah, so sometimes you're like, okay, this would be fine to bump into these comics and have a chat for a couple of stops, but let me tell you, by Berwick-upon-Tweed, you are grasping at straws for conversation. Yeah, it's where do you go beyond? So what's your venue? What time are you on? Who are you staying with? Cool. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah. Headphones are a must for that journey. Big headphones, and have your notepad out, even though you might, there's nothing left to write. You've got your show, but you need to look busy. Again,
but you know what we're doing? I'm doing a callback to
yes.
You from 11 to you now. Your boundaries. You're setting like, listen.
Yeah.
I said hello.
Listen, honestly,
I'm gonna go back into my zone now.
Yeah. I've been known to take the train earlier than needed just to avoid avoid that Edinburgh rush of comics.
I think that's really smart. That is exactly what I would do.
Yeah. It's not the one. Even when I've gone, I did Edinburgh on my first leg of this tour, and obviously it was in like October or something. Nowhere near the Fringe, didn't do the Fringe this year, but Edinburgh Waverley just has connotations of feeling nervous, having dread run through every vein in your body, worrying about who you're going to bump into, worrying about reviews, worrying about... I mean, it's such a weird month because you're just walking to your venue every day, surrounded by your colleagues' faces with stars plastered across them. It's like commuting to work every day, but all the messages are going, you're not as good as that other one though, are you?
Oh God.
It's just like ugh. Imagine like you walk into the studio listening to everybody else's snoops where they're all going, that was brilliant, that was really, really good.
Yeah, also a hiccup.
That was so good. Yeah, you lost your breath because...
Literally, got a nervous hiccup. Although, do you know, I mean, I went to the Fringe about 2 or 3 years ago because I'm really good mates with Jack. I don't know if you know Jack. He wrote Big Boys.
Oh, yeah,
Jack
Rook. Yeah.
He's a dear friend. So I went to go and see his show, and then I went to some afters, and it was just like wall to wall, like comics. And I remember thinking, like, this must be so fascinating because... Also, a lot of comics I know, I mean, it's that cliche, like off mic. No one's trying to be like, ah!
No.
But then at the same time, in that environment, I feel like everyone's trying to be like, well, I'm really fun.
Yeah, I find it really hard to be around. I don't hang around a lot of comedians. I'm not mates with many. Not really like, it's not that I think I'm different. It's just that I don't think it's particularly healthy to be surrounded by people who are always talking shop. And it's a very lovely industry. It can be supportive, but it can also be incredibly cliquey.
Oh yeah,
incredibly incestuous. So I do try and avoid those sorts of like after parties and stuff. I'm very like, if I'm on when I've gone on tour, if I'm going for drinks afterwards, it's with friends from home or
I think that it's a smart way to do it, mate. Yeah. It's a smart way to do it. No, with all the hard work that you do, talk to me about holidays. Do you let yourself rest?
Oh, I do. Do you know what? I do. I love a wholesome holiday. I holiday like I'm 65 and cashing in the pension. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm not. There was a time where I used to love. I did the whole, Zante 18 to 30 holidays.
Oi!
Honestly, I went, and we all went to go see Scott Mills at Club Zero. Yeah.
My boy.
Yeah. And then that was like a really weird moment because I did a podcast with him like a month ago or something. And I was like, this is really weird because I've only seen you once before and it was in Zante and I was 18. So, but there was a time where they were my favourite sort of things to do. But now I'm very into, I want to be chilled. I want to have an Aperol spritz in one hand and a book in the other and the sun beaming down on me. Or in the winter, I love a holiday cottage. I love it. Okay. Get that log burner going, do a couple hikes in the day.
You're one of them hikers.
No, I just like, your face.
I see.
No, I like a hike. You can't grow up in Yorkshire and not be a hiker.
True.
So I like a hike in the day and then gin and tonic with a bit of Scrabble, log fire, nice music playing.
So where are we going? This sounds very UK-based staycation.
Yeah, we just did one we were laughing about this. You can keep this in, but between Christmas and New Year, it was Christmas back with my family this year. Me and my husband alternate. So it was Christmas with all my family and then it was New Year as well. And I was like, Mike, we are going to need 3 days. That's just us two because it's a lot. So we got a holiday cottage up in the Dales for 3 days. Basically just had this like log burner on and played board games like we were an old couple and then packed a flask in the day and went hiking. Literally we were like an old couple. But I like that. We go we do love some sunny holidays though. We did Greece this year and then we did Jamaica back in 2022 and that was it was maybe my favourite holiday ever.
Where did you stay there?
So don't laugh at this. The first week we went on a cruise, right? Bringing the average age on that boat down to about 98. And then we got off the cruise at Montego Bay and went right round Negril.
Oh, I love Negril.
Yeah. Round the bottom because I cannot believe I'm about to drop this, but I took a hint from like holiday tips. We were saying we were going to go to Jamaica, but we just knew that it was ending in Montego Bay. We didn't know to go like Ocho Rios or whatever. But then John Barnes, Liverpool football legend,
Cash,
he was like, go Negril, go here, go here. So he gave us all these tips of places to like go for dinner. I mean, I had like some of the best food I've ever had in my life on that holiday. We went to that Rick's Cafe.
Oh, I love it. So
where you go like jumping off the rocks. Yeah. It was great. I just loved it. That was perfect. Book in one hand, cocktail in the other. Just keep going into the sea. Sensational.
You work hard. It's what you deserve. I just remember what I was going to ask you.
Come on.
Okay,
yes.
It's more of a confession. It's only about, I think, maybe 2 and a bit years ago, definitely not sooner than that I truly clocked that comedians do the same material.
Oh yeah.
Every night in a show. I'm not joking. I grew up my whole life thinking that you do different jokes every night, and I was like, wow. I didn't realise that you.
I think a lot of people think this, Clara. I do. I think a lot of people think this.
Mind blown.
Yeah, because you have sometimes I've had like people come to a tour show. Early on in the tour, and then be like, "Oh, it's so good. We're coming to see you again." And the little bit of you's like, do you know that it's going to be the same show? Because, I'd hate to disappoint you, but I'm not going to come with another, hour and a half of brand new 3 weeks later, hun. It takes me an hour. It takes me a year to write this hour show.
Is that the process?
About that. Like, you do like little work in progress shows and you'll build up a 20-minute set for like the mixed bill gigs. Yeah, but I think to write a tour show, you'll be writing it probably for about a year,
right?
But I do prefer, to be honest with you, emceeing because there's that space to be more in the moment and space to have jokes that are made there on the spot with those people that are only in that room that night, and it can't be replicated tomorrow. You know, I can't have that joke with that teacher tomorrow because they won't be here. It'll be a doctor tomorrow, and then the day after that it'll be a student.
Is this what you guys call crowd work? Or is that something
work.
different?
No, I love it.
Okay.
Yeah, crowd work. I love that.
Right.
It's probably the way I do my shows is I do 30 minutes at the start that's just crowd work, and then the break, and then the show after that. But I really like that 30 minutes of getting to know the crowd, because again, the audience you get in Newcastle, they'll be so different to who you get in Bristol, and they'll be so different to who you get in, you know, Aberystwyth. It's mad.
And also, you just got to say Aberystwyth, which is such a great place to say, isn't it?
Such a great place.
It just
to
rolls
stay.
off.
I love
Aberystwyth.
it. It's so nice.
It's so nice. But yeah, honestly, seriously, like mind blown. Like because I always was convinced, well, yeah, you just make up different jokes every night. And that is, I mean, it's still a skill to be able to remember material for an hour. And
that's why it's a mad thing, because the whole thing that comedians are trying to do is make it look like that's just popped into our head. You know, this routine I've got about carpets, that's a thought I've just had now. No, they've been writing it since May, and you're seeing it in November. But I think a lot of people probably do think that we just rock up and say new jokes every night. I can remember my mum and dad taking me to see Lee Evans when I was about 15 maybe, and it was a work in progress show, and he had, you know, like when you get paper for your printer, a pack like that, and on each piece of paper was a new joke, and he just was like, if it works, I'm going to put it on the left side of the room, if it doesn't work, it's on the right. And I can remember thinking like, wait, what, so you've already written the jokes, and then he's going to keep all of the ones from the left side of the room for tomorrow, and then he'll just hone that. And it blew me up, because I was like you, I thought you just kind of turned up and had some whimsical observations.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's mad.
No, truly, mind blown. At this point, where's your favourite place to perform?
Oh, that's a good question. Newcastle's always fun. Newcastle's always...
Love the Geordies.
Got the energy. Yeah, really, really nice. Bristol's a good one. I think anywhere that's got quite a thriving scene for events and live entertainment. Brighton's always pretty good. Brighton's good because it can laugh at itself. You know, it knows it's got this reputation as a sort of, you know, left-leaning, hippie, vegan.
It's very bougie by the sea.
Milk. Yeah. But I like that. And do you know Portsmouth? Portsmouth is always a fun one. So it's where my husband's from. It's where Susie, who I do my podcast with, she's from there as well. And I really, really like it. It's it's boisterous.
Right.
It's boisterous. Okay. Yeah. And my favourite gig of the tour so far has been Leeds, but I think that's because I was on home turf.
I was going to say, like, when you go home now, do you get a hero's welcome, or people sort of like, oh, it's just Maisie, cool, or is it like, way?
I think in Leeds it definitely felt like, you know, she's one of our own. It was really like that vibe from the offset. And then Harrogate is where I chose to film it, because it was like the theatre that I was in, the youth theatre as a kid. I was like, oh, it's a nice full circle moment. And I was so excited. And then in the wings, I suddenly clocked. I was like, how am I going to do my crowd work? Because everybody in that audience I'll probably know in some way. And actually, is that any, oh my God, what am I going to do? I was really in my head about it, because I was like, I walked out and immediately saw PE teachers, my old babysitter,
any nemesis?
Family, friends. No, God, no. I've put a list of names on the doors, banned those.
Coming in,
Yeah. But I remember there was in the box here, you know, like the bougie seats, there was these 4 women that I could see from the wings, and they were all in leopard print, and they were all on the white wine. And I was like, and I didn't recognise them. So I was like, they'll be good fun. I'll chat to them. So I went out and I was like, what's your name? What do you do? And she was like, oh, I'm a carer. And a little bit of me in the back of my head was like, oh, that's a comedy black hole. But I was like, oh, and are these your friends from work? They were like, yeah, we're all carers. I was like, who do you care for? Old people, young people? And then they all said, the 4 of them, they were like, your granny? And I was like, what? And so my granny, she's 94. She lives on her own independently, but she has these absolute angels of carers who come in at breakfast, lunch, dinner, and before she goes to bed to help her like get up in the morning, to help her go to bed in the night, help her with her meals. And it was the four carers that look after her. So it was the ultimate. I couldn't have asked for it to have gone better, really, because it was so funny, the link. I mean, obviously, I immediately was like, well, if you four are here, who the hell's looking after Muriel? But also, it was so cool. And then, like, I rang my granny the next day and I was like, I can't believe they were in. And she was like, well, yeah, I told them to go. I was like, oh, my granny needs commission now from the sales.
I mean, she technically is the reason why you are sitting here today. She's part of your creation.
Does she get me this?
I mean, basically, she is essentially your agent. So you need to like,
Thanks,
you need to run Muriel a check.
Thanks, Muriel.
Maisie, it's been an absolute delight to have you on Roots. Thank you very much for joining us. If you want to see Maisie on her appraisal tour, don't worry, you're not going to get any appraisals. She is there to talk about herself and you just enjoy her life observations. You can still see her in places like Peterborough, Dundee, Aberdeen, London. Oh God, this is so embarrassing. Ilkley, right? Let me do that again.
You never heard of Ilkley?
Do you know what?
You've not lived,
I'm an
Clara.
embarrassing southerner. Where is Ilkley?
It's West Yorkshire. It's by Leeds.
Well, there we go. And you know what? You can keep that in because this is the UK that everyone needs to see. Well, let me say it properly. Dundee, Aberdeen, London, Ilkley, which is in West Yorkshire.
Yes, Clara.
Get yourself to ticketmaster.co.uk and get those tickets. And if you liked what you heard on today's podcast, please do rate, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Give us a follow and please look out for Maisie's Quiet Coach episode, which will be dropping next week. And we are going to hear all about her snacks, tracks and hacks and what places have inspired and changed her. Until then, see you next time. Get credit when you join LNER Perks. Visit lner.co.uk/perks. Roots from LNER, a distorted production